This is Partner Relationship Management, the ultimate channel sales podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Ultimate Channel Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Bird. We have a treat for you today on today's episode. Instead of listening to every podcast from each of our guests today, we're going to give you something of a cheat code or fast track to partnership advice. We're going to review key insights and trends that we've noticed over the past year from channel chiefs, partnership leaders, and the overall ecosystem landscape. So today I have a couple of guests to introduce. First, Rob Spee. Rob is a seasoned and experienced channel chief. He's created and executed strategies and channel programs ranging from startups all the way to unicorn status lines of business. Today he's at BeyondTrust as the Senior Vice President of Global Channel and Alliances. And he's the host of a very long-running podcast, Channel Journeys. Now, Channel Journeys is a podcast where you can hear channel experts share authentic stories of their channel victories, defeats, and lessons learned along the way. And our other guest, Vince Menzione. You guys already know Vince. He appeared as a guest on another episode not too long ago. As a recap, he's the founder of Ultimate Partnerships. This is a consultancy that helps partner organizations drive greater results. And he's the host of a impressively long-running podcast, The Ultimate Guide to Partnering. Both Rob and Vince are hosts of very successful podcasts covering partner and channel relationships. They're both critical insights from a number of industry experts, including channel chiefs and ecosystem leaders. Today, we're going to discuss the key trends we've all noticed as podcast hosts over the last year and what we're predicting for 2023. Welcome to the show, Rob, and welcome back, Vince. It's great to have you guys here.
Hey, Paul. Thank you. Great to see you. Great to see you, Vince.
Great to see both of you. Two great friends here, and I'm excited for our time together today.
Yeah, this is a fun way to kick off the new year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Rob, let's start with you. Can you kind of outline a couple of things or standouts that you've seen, trends, patterns from channel leaders, let's say, over the last 12 months in 2022?
Yeah, I think there were a couple common themes, Paul. One was the continuing narrowing of focus down to a smaller number of quality partners as opposed to just let's sign up as many as possible. I think just about everyone has made that shift to really honing in and targeting resources, time, energy, people into those focus partners and making them super successful. So that's one key theme. Another key theme is the word that you mentioned, ecosystem. And this is the one thing that we're all trying to figure out. And it sounds so simple, and it's like kind of like cloud. Is this just another name for something that we've already done? And in a way it is, but in a way it's very, very different. You know, we've always had different types of partners, but we're paying so much more attention to it now in the SaaS world, and the reason why we need an ecosystem and the fact that the buying process has changed so much, and the importance of implementation and adoption has changed so much that is really placing a huge emphasis on the need for a diverse ecosystem. And it's really challenging all of us on how to manage that from a technology perspective, from a people perspective, from a program perspective. Those are the two big things that I've seen as major trends over the course of the year that I expect to continue.
Perfect. And how about you, Vince? Anything that you've noticed this year?
I'd say the preponderance of marketplaces. Marketplaces have really become a thing this year. The emphasis on the fact that the three cloud providers have large agreements with most big enterprise organizations, and the opportunity to leverage those is massive. And there's an opportunity for an organization of any size to have a more relevant footprint through marketplaces. So that's one. I agree with Rob on ecosystems. What I'll take at it from a different perspective, though, has been, and Jay McBain's been a guest on my podcast 5 times. He came out with this decade of the ecosystems, I think, on my podcast a year and a half ago, and it really has become a thing, not just in the way that SaaS organizations need to operate differently, but also in the community that is now developing or enveloping this ecosystem movement, I would call it. And you're starting to see organizations and places where people are meeting the watering holes, and they're growing, and the echo chamber is getting louder and louder and louder. And we're starting to see that across, partnership leaders, across Partner Hacker, across others out there as well.
Yeah, the hyperscalers, as I've been hearing them being referred to, and agree. The ecosystem talk that I have heard over the last 12 months has grown significantly. Rob, to your point, this is something I think everyone's been pursuing for a number of years, this quality over quantity. I think there is a level of kind of eagerness when people are starting to build their channel. They want everyone carrying their brand, their product. But then they realize that the amount of cycles they have to spend to manage every partner, it's not feasible, right? So that's where we start seeing this reduction to say, I only want the best of the best as part of my channel. I don't want people that are just hanging around, throwing a deal in every now and then and not being engaged and active. So I think the one addition that I have seen, and this is maybe more on a tactical level, is just the way that partners are now engaging and how they want to transact with, let's say, affiliates and referrals. And these are all part of the ecosystem that we talk about. But the amount of people that want to either incentivize, they don't want to co-sell, they just send me the lead, send me the prospect, and if I close it, I'll pay you out into your bank account or I'll send you a gift card or something like that. And it seems like every partner program that I'm seeing now has this affiliate referral, bounty type engagement that they're trying to leverage, as opposed to, when I was in the channel, this is all about value-added partners, right? Partners that brought value, delivery partners, people that we could lean on, trust, train, enable. And for some reason, I saw less of that in 2022, and I'm hoping that it isn't a trend that we'll see continue for 23. But I do believe it's something we're going to see. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with you on the referral front, Paul, and that's something that we're actually adding to our program. And the ecosystem is driving that too. If you think about it from a customer-centric point of view, and who's that ecosystem surrounding your customer? We're a cybersecurity company at BeyondTrust, and one of the things our customers have to do is achieve cybersecurity insurance compliance. So they're out talking to their cyber insurance brokers who can become great influencers for us. So now we're looking at ways to add them and are starting to add insurance companies into our program.
Do you think it's just another avenue for demand generation? We look at the role of marketing and partner marketing. I've always looked at the holy grail, right? And Rob, you and I talked about this on your podcast, which is, do demand generation and feed the channel, right? Feed the beast, as I believe I said. Because it is a monster that does require a lot of attention. And as a channel partner in the past, you send me a lead, you're going to get my attention. Now, it seems that demand generation has now been reversed, where we're saying, you find the opportunity and we'll give you a bounty for it. Do you think it's just a different avenue for demand generation? Do you think that partner marketing and corporate marketing need to work together for demand generation? Where do you think that referral incentive is coming from?
I think it's in part another form of demand generation, but I think more importantly, it's a form of influence generation, which it gets a bit more nebulous and a bit harder to track. In my example, the insurance companies, they don't want any kickback referral fee or anything like that. They want deeper engagement with their customers.
Okay.
And they get that by if a customer says, hey, how can I become compliant? And they say, oh, by the way, use BeyondTrust technology that can help you become compliant in your insurance. That's a great value add for the customer. And it makes them look good as that insurance company and, providing that kind of advice. Yeah. And that's the kind of an influence that we're looking for.
Yeah. I think my view is that the decision process has changed. Decisions are being made further down in the organization. You go back 10 years ago, right? The IT shop made all the technology purchase decision, and right? So you had to influence that organization. But marketing has a bigger budget than IT does in many organizations and so on. And as you look at the lines of business and where the decision is being made, the buying behavior is becoming more like consumer behavior, because people are bringing to work the way they buy, a car or a house or, something on Amazon. And so they are looking to the points of influence, I'll quote Jay McBain with the 5 seats at the table. Who are the people that are influencing my decision process? Who are the other vendors that I'm working with that are helping shape my whole solution? And I think they're looking at all those areas. And a lot of those organizations are not transacting. They may not be systems integrators that are integrating your solution with another solution, but they're sitting side by side with you. And there's a great opportunity to collaborate. And that's a leverage point that we weren't really taking advantage of before SaaS necessarily.
Yeah, I agree, Vince. I just interviewed Janet Shines for my podcast, and she cited a study. I think it was a Harvard Business Review study, and it was talking about the new buying process and said that the technology buyer is only speaking to you, your vendor, and your partners like 18% of the total time of the buying process. So what's happening that other 82% of the time?
Yeah.
So who are all the influencers during the bulk of the majority of the time that guy's making a buying decision, right? So those are the people we have to try to reach out to that are part of that ecosystem.
Yep. So I guess maybe
I'm sorry. I don't want to even talk to a salesperson any longer, right? I don't want to get that phone.
People have been trying to get rid of salespeople for years, and it's never happened. So let's actually, why don't we tackle, this? It's not an elephant in the room, but it's obviously ecosystems has been the trend that we've seen 2022, and to your point, Vince, for the last couple of years, courtesy of Jay McBain. So what have you noticed as far as how channel leaders are starting to change and interact with it? Is there kind of any general ideas that need to consider in kind of implementing an ecosystem concept? What have you seen on that, Vince? Any kind of suggestions, ideas on things that people need to consider if they're going the ecosystem route?
Well, coming at it from the hyperscaler world, where I spent a lot of my time, right, helping these organizations engage with Microsoft and Google and others, is that they have had disparate strategies for their alliance strategy and then their channel strategy, right? And a lot of them that have moved from, on-prem or licensed software to SaaS have neglected to make those two organizations talk well with one another. And if you go back to the marketplace play as a good example, right? I might have a very robust channel strategy over here. Are these the right partners? It goes back to what Rob said about having the right partners in the room. Do I have the right partners that also can work across my ecosystem or my hyperscaler strategy? And so that's where, okay, let's look across from my alliance strategy to my channel strategy to then to my influencer strategy. And do I have a cohesive approach across that entire ecosystem? So I think that's one of the things that I'm seeing is trying to remove those walls that separate the silos within the organization itself and have a more cohesive ecosystem strategy. And I think that's probably what Rob is doing within his organization today.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rob, you're doing this, right? You're living this. So how have you seen, you've been in the channel for a number of years. Is the approach different? How do you look at an ecosystem and kind of change the mindset when it comes to kind of a new style of strategy and approach to these relationships?
Yeah, I am in the thick of it right now, Paul. And there are a couple of things to think about. One is the conversations that you're having within your company at the board level, the ELT level, changes. Now, everyone gets the buzzword ecosystem. I think they buy into it. But in reality of executing on it and thinking about targets and what people are really doing, that's where it gets a little hairy because people are still used to the older mindset of the value of partners, bringing scale, bringing reach, bringing us opportunities, driving partner-originated business. You can't lose that. That's got to still be important. But the challenge is that's how the ELT and the board is thinking. Yet at the same time, they're saying, hey, go build me an ecosystem. But to build an ecosystem, you need to do some things differently. I tried this year, 22, to get my CAM team to really own the ecosystem. And it's just too much. It's too much on the CAM because they still have to drive the partner-originated business and work with those focus partners and do all the other things that CAMs have to do. So we're going a bit more towards specialization this year and introducing some new roles in the organization. So I introduced partner success managers last year, and that was a big piece of it because post-transaction, well, you need success in the technical sales pre-transaction, but then you need a lot of partner help in implementation and adoption and all of that. So, and looking at, partner net promoter scores and that types of things. So that's the partner success piece of it. But we also realized we needed something, and Louise McAvoy at Trend Micro, she calls it the blue ocean strategy. That's what she talked about on my podcast, and it really got me thinking. She goes, I even have a blue ocean cam. It's like, well, what's that? It's someone who's just out there finding these new ways of working with partners. So what we're doing, we're calling them more service delivery partner cams, because we have these partners that don't fit the bucket of a reseller. And if you try to manage them like a reseller, it just falls flat on your face. And it's very, very frustrating to the partners, because they want to do MSP business. They want to do service delivery. Their margin profile is different. So we're going to have cams that are focused just on those types of partners. So we're introducing new roles. Now we got to put new metrics on them and get our executives comfortable with different metrics and targeting different things. Hey, we're trying to drive more adoption with this set of partners, not more partner-originated business. So it's changing the conversation a bit and getting people comfortable with that.
And here I thought the only metric that mattered was what the bottom line looked like. How about you, Vince?
Yeah,
I'm actually curious about what Rob had to say. Rob, I have a question for you on this. Are you looking at measuring these people directly accountable to the sales, like at the point of transaction, or are they paid on or measured on an overall or overarching number for the ecosystem that they're supporting? How are you thinking?
Yeah, it's a blend of things, Vince. So in the service delivery role, what we're really looking more importantly is the level of engagement with those partners. And what we're trying to do as a company is drive a lot more of our service delivery through partners. We're a SaaS company, not a service delivery company. So the more we can get partners enabled to drive adoption and enablement and implementation, that's what we're looking for, right? So those cams will be targeted more on the enablement and driving up our percentage of deals that are implemented by partners. More so and that's more of there is a revenue component to it, but it's more PS revenue that we're selling to the partner for co-delivery to help them stand up whatever they're doing.
Interesting. And so, we talked earlier about the referral, but now, Rob, you're more looking, it's almost like a co-sell, almost like a co-innovation, co-delivery. Is that on the rise? Do you think that is the critical function of the ecosystem, is this co-support and co-innovation?
Yeah, I think it's co-everything, Paul. It's co-marketing, it's co-selling, it's co-innovation, co-delivery. It's all out there doing it, and it's kind of goes back to the hybrid sales approach of like a hybrid car that Rich Blakeman talks about, right? And how do you all work together using your individual strengths, but coming up with a better solution that wraps around the customer and drives everything the customer needs to buy your products and be successful.
Absolutely. And Vince, you talk about, the hyperscalers, and they're essentially an ecosystem on their own, but not as much kind of co-innovation, or is there an element of co-innovation and kind of co-delivery in a marketplace model or a hyperscaler model?
I'm glad you asked that, because that's exactly where I wanted to go with this next question. So we talked about marketplaces, we talked about hyperscalers, and we talked about channel, and bringing all those things together, right? So there's opportunity to take a SaaS solution, deliver it on a particular hyperscaler's platform, and wrap around professional services and put it up in the marketplace as an offering. And we're starting to see that like very deliberate set of actions working with specific, and the partners that are doing that are also partners of the ecosystem partner, or the hyperscaler, if you will, right? So let's take a Microsoft. I've got Microsoft scale partners that drive the bulk of the transactional revenue for Microsoft. I have ISVs like Rob's organization that have built on the cloud. How do I bring those two things together so that I'm leveraging the scale motion of the scale reseller, and at the same time taking this best of breed technology to the customer, wrapping around some services or support, whatever that happens to be, the added value that the scale partner is bringing to it and delivering a high value solution that's a complete solution for the customer.
Yeah. That's
so,
a big
Rob,
part
when
of
are you joining the marketplace? When are you joining the marketplace, Rob?
We're there. We're there. So we are already on the AWS marketplace. We'll be on the Azure marketplace this quarter. And
Nice.
what Vince is talking about is a key part of our strategy and definitely the future. We see this as the way that the business is going. And that, Vince, you mentioned, bringing together the alliances team and the channel team. And we did that, and we're really trying to drive this cross-party collaboration and what we call the trifecta approach, because we'll be selling up there on a hyperscaler marketplace, co-selling with a hyperscaler. We've got perhaps a reseller engaged. We've got maybe a GSI engaged. And our TAP partners are super important in the equation. So our technology alliance partners that we work with who have very complementary solutions to a broader PAM or IAM offering are super important. And we're also adjusting our comp plans on the CAMs to get them to drive more of that trifecta approach.
Nice.
Interesting. Excuse me. So there was a recent report released. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it. It was the State of Partner Ops and Programs. That was a combination of a number of people, including Jay McBain, that put this together. And it was interesting because we've all heard Jay say that 75% of world commerce goes through an indirect channel of some sort. And this is something that we've heard for a while. But when I read the report, there was something I found really interesting because they said that people with partner programs, and I'm going to assume these are now moving to ecosystem programs, that on average 77% of organizations have some type of partner program in place. But on the enterprise level, it's more like 92%. Now, wondering if you had a chance to go through that program and if you had any opinions on just the state of kind of partner programs and partner operations that kind of takes to the delivery of these ecosystem tactics we've been talking about. Vince, let's start with you.
I saw the report, Paul. Fantastic body of work there. And I think it's like 95 pages. It's extensive, right? So I have not read it, the entire report, but I did do a quick summary, and I immediately forwarded it to our head of global partner ops who loved seeing it. It supported a lot of things that he's driving in the company and the move that we're making in our partner program, which we started down the path last year of turning it into a partner ecosystem program. Mm-hmm. And it's not like a wholesale change overnight. It's an incremental shift that we're making. We made some changes last year. We're making some improvements this year. And I think it'll take 3 or 4 years to turn it into a true ecosystem program.
Perfect. And have you had a chance to read the report, Vince? Any thoughts on it?
I have looked at and skimmed through the report, and I actually listened to your podcast. I think the one thing that stood out for me was based on the size of the organization that was part of the survey. And it's not a critique at this point because I think there was a great participation, but it seemed to pivot more towards the smaller organizations that did participate. But the ones that were of larger size and scale had more robust operating models or operations on the back end. And I think that's true. Just as an organization scales and has the ability to put more emphasis and resources at it and recognizes as you build an ecosystem that you need the back end support to make everything happen that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. Glue that keeps everything, the flywheel running.
Yeah, and there were a couple things that I really picked out of that when it came to a tech stack perspective. And number one was the emergence of the marketplace. And I'm wondering how much is that going to be when we start looking at 2023? We talk about the hyperscaler marketplace. We talk about, Rob, you joining and expanding your marketplace strategy. Do you think this now will need to be the de facto standard for people that are launching an ecosystem program, that they have to really consider the impact of a marketplace within their not only their offering with their channel partners, but how they're delivering it to the end user as well?
I think so, but I don't think you can expect to just have overnight success on the marketplace, nor can you have overnight success with any partner, right? It takes time. And so just because you're now up on the marketplace doesn't mean customers are banging at your door to buy your solution. There are thousands of other offerings up on the marketplace. So it still takes all the other work and blocking and tackling that you need to do, but it creates a very convenient vehicle for customers to purchase your solution and can drive, as they've shown in studies, and we're seeing ourselves just getting started, drive faster deals, bigger deals, budget that you didn't even know existed because they're trying to, draw down their contracts with hyperscalers.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And how about you, Vince? Do you think that it's going to play a key aspect in kind of the growth of people's programs? Is that key aspect of not only developing a marketplace, but then promoting it accordingly?
Yeah, I think what's held it back right now, Paul, is inherently the systems and tools of the hyperscalers to support a motion that is inclusive of the channel in a way that the channel is used to recognizing revenue has been an issue. Yeah. So in most cases, there's some back-end payment program. But if you are a scale partner like a CDW or an SHI, I could rattle off all the names out there. You're used to recognizing top line revenue. So there is some friction in the system right now, especially for organizations that are channel heavy, because it does compete with the existing models. Mm-hmm. And so making everyone happy in the process. I mean, ultimately, some people say that marketplaces will make the channel go away, and that also scares the channel. The two coexist, and like the example that I gave earlier, where a channel partner takes a solution and then wraps around their professional value around it. That's, I think, is the model that will work in the future. But I do think there's a resistance on both sides. ISVs or vendors, SaaS vendors that have a solution and rely on the channel, and then the channel itself saying, hey, this isn't good, especially for publicly traded companies. It's really going to impact our top line revenue. Mm-hmm. So I think we have to get through that. I know that each of the hyperscalers are working through that, but it is still a significant issue.
Yeah, how do you attribute a purchase in a marketplace back to the partner, and then does that appear that the vendor is just going direct, which is usually a recipe for failure?
And then also the teams, right? So everybody gets paid differently in a marketplace solution. So even, as Rob looks at his organization, I'm sure he's going through this right now to say, how are people getting paid? Is this going to impact how people get paid as well? So people's behavior, will drive a certain set of outcomes, and so that's also got to be addressed.
Yeah, and it can add another layer of fees that you have to take into account on your margins as well. The partner doesn't want you cutting into their margins, so whose margin ends up getting cut into? The rep doesn't want to take the hit either.
Nobody does.
Nobody does.
So, a question for you, Rob, because you're in the act right now of evolving your ecosystem. What do you think the most useful technology is that's helping with that ecosystem? And is there any gaps? Is there something that's missing? You talked about the analytics and how difficult it was to measure. Is there a useful technology that's been very helpful, or one that just isn't there yet?
Well, there are definitely multiple technologies that I think you need to use and deploy to be successful. First is a robust partner portal, right? That can just help you manage all of this day in and day out in your traditional business, as well as the new partner types, enablement, certifications, co-marketing, co-selling, all of that. That's super important. Another critical piece, I think, is the account mapping software. And there are, several, at least 3 known providers that have come out on this front with good technologies. That's just super critical, because you want to do account mapping with your resellers, your GSIs, even your TAP partners and the hyperscalers. That account mapping is so critical to hone in really quickly on where can you co-sell, where can you have success and introduce each other, and where do you have co-customers, and where can you introduce each other into your own customers. So that's super important. I think Vince mentioned communities. So how do you bring these communities together? We're looking at technology that will help bring our service partner community together and introduce resellers who don't do services to the services providers. So that's really critical. I've yet to see a great solution on the influencer. And I know there's technologies out there that kind of touch on it, but I still think there's a huge opportunity for someone to, and I don't even know how you do it. It's something that we can't even imagine yet, but someone probably is out there going to think about it and how they pull in all the different feeds from social media and who knows what, credit cards at the grocery store. I don't know what it takes, but somehow they're going to pull all this together into some great influencer platform that you can really figure out who's doing what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen anything, Vince, from kind of emerging technologies or really, effective technologies in managing hyperscaler relationships or marketplace relationships?
Yeah. So I'm glad. By the way, I agree with everything that Rob had to say. And, the partner portal solution, the mapping solution, certainly super critical to both white space as well as existing account opportunity analysis. And then I'll layer in, yes, on the hyperscaler side, these are very complex relationships to manage across each of the three. Working, as Rob knows, working within their systems and tools like ACE and Partner Center and the Microsoft and Amazon side, and where Google is sort of developing, that's a massive amount of work. And having a solution that can help you drive across your internal systems, your CRM solutions and your partner portal solutions, your mapping solutions, and then feed all that back up is critical. And yes, there are a couple of solutions out there that are trying to do it. Some are very complex and some are very focused on the hyperscaler solution set. And one in particular that I have worked with that I know is really rock solid. Is now actually part of a marketplace solution. So without attributing any vendors, but I do think there are solutions out there that can solve some of this, and it is a big issue, especially as you're thinking ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a really important one, Vince. And I'd add one other that I didn't mention that is just really good partner performance or business planning technology that you can use. As we're honing in on a smaller number of partners, it's really important that the partner managers are doing really proper joint business planning with these partners and having a way to really do that effectively, efficiently, to roll up the plans and do QBRs really quickly. That's another really important element.
And that's something that anyone that's managed channel has always done, right? We always want to know partner-driven revenue. Do you now look at it as an ecosystem-influenced revenue or ecosystem-generated revenue? Is there a new way that you kind of track that? Because obviously, influencers are difficult to attribute to, but
yeah, we are trying to leverage it more in a way of not just looking at that individual partner's performance. Well, one, you got to look at what is the partner trying to accomplish. Is it selling or is it delivering? Is it both? But also in the business planning, where are we finding those trifectas? So we're building into the plan which TAP partners might you already be working with, or should we introduce you into to start working with? So we're trying to drive more of that ecosystem co-partnering as part of the business planning. So that is a bit of a change for us.
Interesting. Well, one of the things that I'm wondering, because I'm a big analytics person, I love pouring through data when it comes to being able to identify trends and be able to understand the facts of what's going on. Do you think that over at least through the last 12 months that there has been a better utilization of the data that's been collected as people move from channels to ecosystems? Do you think that they're now capturing new data sets? You're trying to figure out how to report on them, Rob. Obviously, ecosystems are spitting out a ton of information and marketplaces as well. Do you think there's more utilization of that data, or do you still think it's a little bit of a gray area and people are still trying to figure out what to measure so they can manage it?
Well, hopefully so. I think what a lot of us are facing is the realization that the systems aren't ready to easily provide that data. So we're making a lot of changes and have a lot more changes we have to do to really appropriately and accurately track the ecosystem. So we're getting better. We're making changes. We're making improvements. There's a lot more that we still need to do. We're diving into the data a lot. And as you dive into it, you go, wait a second, why this doesn't quite add up? Something doesn't look right here. And then you dive into Salesforce and figure out how are you tracking things? We got to track it a little bit differently. So part of it is just getting prepared to be able to do proper analytics. And I think that's something that all of us are struggling with, is just the system side of the house.
And Vince, you consult people on how to build these partnerships and accelerate them. Do you have recommendations, suggestions on how people should now kind of harness the data that they're getting from hyperscalers, from ecosystems, from marketplaces, and actually have meaningful actions from that data?
I think to Rob's point, it's still a gap area. I think what you have is disparate systems and tools that are, as he said, spitting out data. And we're all dealing with the data individually, right? Whether you're pulling it up into your Salesforce solution, whether you're pulling it up into your hyperscalers solution, how are you, in most cases, you're taking and spitting out your own reports and spreadsheets. And I think that there's a huge opportunity here for for organizations. And I'll come back to our good friend Jay. Jay's not even on this episode, and we've all referenced him multiple times. But he has this terrific landscape, which is actually islands, and he refers to all these islands of automation, right? All these channel tech or channel ecosystem automations. And what he has said to me is that somebody needs to have a boat that goes between each of these islands. And I think there's still that like Uber view, like if they all sit in the same data lake, can we then take the data and report on it? Seems like it's a great opportunity for somebody who wants to start up a company right now.
Maybe I'll take that. He's on a boat visiting the island of Antarctica.
yes, he is.
So unlike Rob, who is in the British Virgin Islands, eating
I like island hopping for sure.
Exactly. So we talked a lot about kind of what we looked at in the past in 2022, and the types of tools that we've used and the emergence of ecosystems, marketplaces, and hyperscalers. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about what we think is going to happen in 2023. Will we see an expansion of channel ecosystems? Is there this push for cross-platform integrations or things like that? So Vince, why don't we start with you? Kind of what's your, what are you, if 2023, if you had a little crystal ball, what do you think will happen in the channel over the next 12 months?
Well, if I had a crystal ball, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. But in all tongue-in-cheek aside, what I would say, first of all, I'm an optimist on 2023. I do think that we in the tech sector have an opportunity, obligation, and we will lead the way. This transformation that we're seeing of every organization becoming a tech organization, we're leading that. So I think that we're in a really great spot. I don't listen to the pundits and what people are predicting about the economy right now, because I do think we're going to get over this. And what I would say on the development, to Rob's point about community, I think is impactful. I think that people are looking to other people to find the way. They're looking to experience share. They're looking to learn from others that have been there, that have the scars to show it. And so we're all learning from each other, which is wonderful. And I think there's opportunities to expand there. I think there's an opportunity certainly for more people to come to the watering holes. Maybe they each go to their own specific watering hole, or the watering hole that solves for a particular area. So I think we're going to see more of that in this world of channels and ecosystems. And I think that more people are going to try and do what Rob is doing and what some of my clients are doing in terms of bringing it all together finally and removing the stovepipes and then trying to figure it out. You're cabling it together, so to speak, in terms of the technologies. But ultimately, I think we're going to see a more robust, just as we saw in the MarTech world, we're going to see a more robust set of tools and approaches to go do what we need to go do, which is effectively drive a partner-led business, which we all know is the right approach as opposed to a direct-only approach.
And Rob, what does your crystal ball look like for 23?
Yeah, all of the above. Definitely an increase in marketplace business, increase of the ecosystem and the trifecta approach. I think the impact of that. We're starting to see already the kind of the fruits of the labor that we put in for 22. You can just hear it amongst the team internally and how they're talking, and you can hear it amongst the partners as well. And I think that's generating a lot of excitement. I'm really looking forward to our company kickoff, and then we've got a big customer and partner event coming up. One thing that we haven't touched on is distribution. And having worked in distribution, I'm still a big fan of distribution, but I have very high expectations of what a distributor can do for me because I know they can do a lot, right? And so I'm really driving that. And what is really exciting to me is that the distributors are shifting their business models to more of a service-oriented approach as well. That the old transactional model is not going to sustain them. We know just in the shift in buying habits and marketplaces and everything. So What we're seeing and what we're pushing is for really empowering and enabling our distributors from a services perspective. One of the big challenges we have is how do we ever scale fast enough to train enough partners, to enable enough partners, to certify enough partners to meet the delivery demands that our customers have? We can't do it alone. So we're using distribution to scale our services enablement like we would have used and do use distribution to scale our services, our sales capability, right? So this to me is really exciting. And we have different distributors around the globe that we work with, but they're jumping into the pool with us and adding to their capabilities to provide that services enablement arm that our partners need. So that to me is going to be the future of distribution, much more of a services hub than a sales hub.
Well, you beat me to it, because I was going to ask, in this expansion of the channel ecosystem, what's going to happen in 23 to the distributors, to the value-added resellers, to the influencers, to the the digital natives that are around the solution all the time? My thought was that I thought we would see a drop in distribution, but I agree with you now that I've kind of heard your perspective that yes, distributors are going to just simply play a new role. What about the we look at co-sell, we look at influence, we look at referral partners. What about the reseller, the system integrator? Do you think that's a growth segment, or do you think we'll start seeing that start to drop away?
Yeah, I think we always talk about the demise of the VAR, and we probably have been for I don't know how many years, but they just keep chugging along. And we have VARs that are super valuable to us. And if they don't want to get into the services game for whatever reason, that's fine with us, because we match them with the partners who don't want to touch resell. All they want to do is services. So that's a great marriage. There's absolutely a role for them. We have system integrators who want to do both, right? Some of the big companies have shifted from almost a pure sales model to 50% or more services now. Those are great partners. So I think they all still have a huge role to play for us. The other value of the distribution is still that long tail, because the long tail never disappears, right? You're always going to have new partners coming in. We get flooded with partners who want to join our network and be part of the BeyondTrust partner ecosystem, but we can't flood our cams with all those new partners. So we're asking the distributors to take them on, and we're enabling and empowering the distributors to properly onboard them and kind of bring them up into the family, and let's see what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of old school distribution too, of something that the distributor can do.
Now, we talked earlier about all of the different tools that we have available and the ones that were really helping the partner ecosystem. So let's talk about cross-platform integration. And Vince, maybe I'll ask you, people have this partner portal, their partner relationship management, their account mapping tool. They got a tool for measuring this. They got a tool for measuring that. Where do you think cross-platform integration and, bringing it all together into single pane of glass, if you remember that concept, do you see that as a 2023 result or progression?
I still, again, going back to the earlier conversation on the data, I think it's the same discussion point. Like, how are you going to pull it together? I do see that people today are, there are tools that allow systems to talk to one another, like Zapier. Mm-hmm. And people are living in a world where they have many different SaaS applications. And there seems to be an acceptance of that, I guess is what I would say, rather than pulling it all together in a single pane of glass. The pane of glass is the data, as we discussed earlier. And I think that's where you can pull it together. There are some analytic tools out there, certainly, that you could take advantage of. Microsoft has Power Platform. There's tons of low-code, no-code tools out there that allow you to get to the data. And so today, I think you're still building it yourself. Some people are looking at using some of those other tools to build solutions. And I think that's what you'll see evolve. My prediction for 2023 is you'll probably start to see more of that happen.
Yeah.
What about the evolution or the influence within partner ecosystems of, not only social platforms, but other digital media, social and other digital media platforms? Do you think that has an influence on the ecosystem model over the next 12 months?
Yeah, I'll go there, since I probably spend more time than any of you on there. I think, well, LinkedIn has certainly evolved as the platform of choice from the business perspective, right? It's become the town hall for all of us to go, right? And we have the opportunity to get in front of our audiences and have meaningful conversations that are not shaded by other aspects or people coming on and doing other things. So I do think, but coming at LinkedIn as an example, in the right way, right? That many times, your organization would do the posts, right? It wouldn't be you personally, Paul or Rob. Now people are bringing their vulnerabilities and their lives to LinkedIn in a way to attribute themselves to their organizations and tell their story. And using those tools, those social tools, and social selling is really what's happening. And the best sellers today are social sellers. And I've had the privilege of having worked with a couple of them, had them on my podcasts. And then, so just those are people that get it, and organizations that get it will also take advantage of that media.
For sure. So another one, how about leveraging more emerging technologies? I'm talking about artificial intelligence, VR, blockchain. Where do you think does this have a place in the partner ecosystem? And is it something that we're going to see emerge in 2023?
You want to take that route? Yeah. Well, I've had the opportunity over the holidays to play a little bit with Chat CPT. Is that it?
Yeah, the OpenAI, yes.
Yeah, and it's astounding what it can do if you direct it in the right way. So I do think that AI is, there's an amazing amount of power under the hood. Taking advantage of that is certainly going to be one. I'm not as clear on blockchain and some of the and virtual reality playing a role. Virtual reality is playing a role in some industries, but it's very vertical specific, manufacturing and some simulation areas.
Rob, one of the things you talk about is these distributors doing training. And in the past, here's your choice. You bring them into a classroom and you teach them in front of everyone else. You go to their office, you do it that way. Use these online e-learning platforms. Is there a play? Do you create a better relationship if you can do your training through virtual reality?
I imagine there is, Paul. That could be the next great thing that comes out as an easy way to do that. We certainly, as we're looking into this year, and it could be a tough year from an economics perspective, right? So what impact does that have on everyone's travel budgets? Last year, we did a ton of in-face, learning, and we were initially planning to do that, but it's not just our own budgets, it's our partners' budgets as well. So we've got to do a lot more instructor-led virtual training. But how do you make that, engaging so that they're not, multitasking and signing off or just daydreaming? That is a huge challenge that we've got to figure out. And I think that virtual world is here to stay, and we've all got to find ways, or smart guys have to find ways so we can do it more effectively.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the impact of, you talk about the OpenAI, Vince, the potential of how do we does blockchain have an influence on the way that we transact? Not only with our customers, but with our partners. And then is there an avenue where, we can now do in person, virtually, hey, we did it over Zoom and Teams for 2 years during COVID. Now, why can't we just make it a little bit more interesting and engaging or immersive with these emerging technologies?
Yeah.
Mike, I've played with HoloLens. I was at Microsoft when we released HoloLens, and you've seen what Meta has done with their platform. Probably threw a lot of money at it. It's going to be interesting to see what Apple does.
Yes.
With democratizing the technology the way they have with other technologies, and what they bring out there, because that might be the play, Paul. If they can get the device price down to a point where it's economically feasible to do, as Rob said, do that training remote and still get people engaged. That will be the play. There is quite your point on blockchain, super critical, right, to the transaction later on. I think that will be the next wave. Will be in that area in this decade of the ecosystem.
All right. So as parting thoughts, any final predictions, Rob, for 2023?
I think just buckle up, hold on to your seats. It's going to be a wild year, but we're super excited about it. We got a lot of things planned, and then there's always the unexpected. So, this one business guy that I really looked up to always gave me the greatest line. And he was a sailor like me, and he's like, Rob, always be prepared to tack.
Very true, very true. And Vince, I'm with you. I'm an optimist. I don't see, I think commerce continues regardless of what the economy says. Any final predictions for 2023?
I'm an optimist as well. We talked about events. Rob mentioned events being canceled or moved digitally, but yet you saw at the end of the year a couple of really big conferences that had massive attendance. So I think that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for organizations. As you pull back, everybody pulls back, and this creates a bad time. So I just think that we all need to lean in a little bit with caution.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Vince, for being guests on the show today. Let's make sure we get together in around 12 months' time, see if our predictions came right or if we missed the mark. So thank you both. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Channel Sales Podcast. Please don't forget to join us next time. For more information, please visit channelsalespodcast.com. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode today, please leave us a 5-star rating. From the Apple Podcast app, just select our show, scroll down to the rating and review section, and click Write Review. And don't forget to share with your friends or professional network anyone who'd enjoy it. See you next time on the Ultimate Channel Sales Podcast.